You have your business and maybe it's going easy, maybe it's a giant pain in the butt, but is your brain in the right place no matter what you're doing? There's been times it's been ultra successful for us, and there's been times it's like, what in the world is going on? But the one thing that has always rang true is the mindset. And actually, I was thinking about it earlier today. It was like when you're in the right mindset, no matter what's happening, you can overcome it. When you're in the wrong mindset, it really seems like nothing you do works. If you haven't read Think and Grow Rich, you really should. But even if you have, is it working as well as it could? Do you feel like there's still something missing? I have brought John Mitchell on today's show, and he's the author of Missing Secret and founder of Think It Be It. And I can't wait to bring him on so he can tell us the second half of what's missing from Think and Grow Rich. Yes, you heard me correctly, and how we can rewire our brains to be even more successful, even if we already are. We're going to thank our sponsor and then bring up John Mitchell. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, John Mitchell. John, how are you feeling today?
Hey, I'm living the dream. Thank you for asking.
It looks like it. I'm so glad to have you here. And, people say secrets don't make friends, but um, I regretfully agree. I think they do.
Well, and I tell you, I think that your audience is going to find what we're going to talk about interesting. But I would dare say that some of your audience is going to find this life-changing. So I'm looking forward to this.
I hope I'm one of them, sincerely, because you got my interest piqued, and I don't know what I just said there at the beginning, but please tell us secrets. That's what we're going to discuss on this episode. And yeah, how did you discover the missing part of Think and Grow Rich?
Well, let me basically tell you my story. So when I was 50, I just wasn't as successful as I thought I should be. And I started my career as a CPA, got to 30 and decided I did not want to be a CPA all my life. And I became an entrepreneur and in my 30s and 40s was in like seven different businesses. But Mario, when I hit 50, just not as successful as I thought I should be. And I had really two goals in my life. One was to make enough money so I didn't have to work. And the other one was just to find the woman of my dreams. And so on the money, always did pretty well. Always made 200, $300,000 a year. But when I hit 50, I realized as materialistic as this sounds, I had to start netting $1 million a year if I was going to have the exceptional life I always dreamed of. Just probably the CPA and me kicking in, just doing the math. Then on the girl, never been married at 50. Although I must say I did a lot of interviewing. Um, I called it interviewing. My friends probably called it begging, which is probably more accurate. But nevertheless, at 50, I'm not as successful as I thought I should be. And maybe 3 months after I turned 50, a pearl of wisdom comes to me. Find the top book in the world on success and apply that book literally word for word to my life. So I'm like, wow, that's a pretty good idea. And I remember jumping out of bed and I discovered something that sort of blew me away, that there's one book that's been read by 150 million people, and it's the top book of the world on success by a factor of 10. And that book is Think and Grow Rich, which I'm glad to hear that you've read.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill.
Right, right. And so I'm like, wow, this is setting up perfect. Who knew there was one book above all the rest on success? So I rush out, I buy the book, I read the book, and Mario, then I discovered the problem. Book says there's a secret for success, but he only gives us half of the secret. It's on the reader to figure out the other half. Well, I'm bummed out. I mope around and I probably mope around for like 3 weeks. And one day I just get up and go, John, just man up, figure out the damn secret. And so I immersed myself in the book over like 2 to 3 months, probably read it 20 times,
Wow.
and was blessed to finally figure out the full secret. And I developed a 12-minute a day technique to apply it. And I started applying it to a new business I was starting in the reverse mortgage field. And suddenly my income starts doubling and doubling and doubling to where approximately 4 years later, I'm making 25 times the 200 to 300 grand a year I was making the prior 20 years.
Good for you.
And and Mario, I felt so blessed. But what was particularly cool is I could see exactly why it was happening. I was just playing the game of life at a higher level. I mean, I could do things I couldn't do before. I had just a level of control over myself I'd never had before. And I became fascinated that you could take two key scientific principles and apply them to your life and so dramatically impact your life. And so about 12 years ago, I sell my company. I finally have enough money so I don't have to work, and like I'm going to share this with the world. And I don't know, maybe a month after I sold my company, I met the former chancellor and president here at the University of Texas in Austin. And he says, "Hey, you got to teach this at the University of Texas, and why don't we teach it together?" And so that sort of led to, he introduces me to the athletic director, and he says, "Well, I want to learn this 12-minute a day technique." So I teach it to him, and that evolves to me becoming the mental coach for the 18 head coaches at the University of Texas. And so today I teach a class called The Science of Success, the Science of Leveraging Yourself. It's really what I would call advanced leadership of self. And I teach my methodology to adults through my book, The Missing Secret, of the legendary book, Think and Grow Rich. So that's my story.
Well, congratulations. It sounds like it took a dramatic turn for the better there.
It did. It did.
And now you're on a mission to get this out to everyone so they can have the same success and apply it to their lives.
Right, right. And think about this. Let me ask your audience a question that is so pertinent, I think. How do you create success in your life? Just think about that. How do you create success in your life? Well, when I'm in person with people and I ask them that question, Mario, a lot of times they'll stumble around for an answer because they've never really thought about it. And then the more pertinent question is, do you feel like your results reflect your potential and your intelligence? Well, most people would say it doesn't. That's certainly how I felt when I was 50. I'm like, well, there's way more potential here that I'm realizing based on my results. And what I see is that most people are just winging life. They don't have a way of doing life. They just they just get up and do the best they can. And I think that happens because nobody ever taught them the alternative. And I think you'll find this interesting, and I'd love your take on this. Here's the fundamental problem with winging life. Your intelligence, intellect, and logic is not directing your actions because 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. They're in the moment and they're basically on autopilot. And since they're unconscious, your conscious mind, intelligence, intellect, and logic is not directing those daily actions. Yet those daily actions are the very thing that determines your success in life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem. And my 12-minute day technique fixes it. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
it does. It sounds really good because I remember hearing about that, about the conscious mind, subconscious mind, and neuroscience. It's like, let's take losing weight. You can say, I want to lose weight, I want to grow the business, I want to whatever. And you can be doing all the work, but if you don't believe it,
Hmm.
like wholeheartedly, it's going to be at the very least very difficult.
Right. Right.
But the second you believe it, it's like all heck could be breaking loose and you're still finding a way. And it's like,
Right.
what's the difference? I mean, I look back, and this is such perfect timing. And this is a little surreal because literally I woke up today and said a few things and I was like, okay, this is a done deal. And I'm pretty determined to begin with, but today was like, yeah, watch out. But then it was like last year and then 3 years prior, and there, at all these points in times, it was like I really was convicted. And it's like, I really want to help more people. I want to do this. I want, and the last few years, there's been some things that are just easy and effortless. Like you're going through them. They're over and done with. You accomplished it at the highest level. And it literally took close to no effort. Where 8 years ago, 10 years ago, you know, to your point, you go, I didn't feel like I knew anything till I was 50.
Right.
And and
But
I look back and go, what the heck was wrong with me? But I remember at that point going, I am so thankful I'm here. I worked hard. I helped these many people. I did this thing. And it's like, wow, I made it to that next thing. But sometimes it was very hard to go to that next stage. And then other times I'm like, oh, I guess, holy smokes, that thing I've been praying for and working towards for 11 years, I just realized I've done it 7 times in the last 2 months. And I didn't even realize it or think about it. It was just there.
right. Right. But Mario, think about this. So the most significant thing I ever learned in my life is that 95% of my daily actions are unconscious. Think of the profound ramifications of that. If they're unconscious, then your intellect and intelligence is not driving your actions, yet those
Right.
actions are what's determine your success. And that's exactly why when I was 50, I'm like, why is the results not matching my potential? Well, of course they're not. My intelligence is not driving my actions. And here's what you'll find interesting. So if your intelligence is not driving your actions, what is? Well, you're innately wired for survival, which causes you to be fear-based and reactive. Well, that's what's driving your actions. You know, you're wired to be
Hmm.
fear-based and reactive, which is the opposite of how you need to be wired if you want to be productive, creative, and happy. So the main point I want you to see is, oh, that point that 95% of your daily actions are in the moment and reactive and on autopilot, that is the problem. And I can make way more of those unconscious actions become conscious as I explain how this works.
Let's go back for a second, and I want to set a baseline for the success because I'm agreeing with what you're saying, and it's crazy with the habits and how they are driving so much. You're really a slave to them. However, I do know that one of my favorite things to do is go, okay, I'm horrible at this. Let's get good at it. And now this becomes the habit. And now it does put it on autopilot for you instead of like, you know what I mean? You do have to establish the habit. You can think your way, I'm going to work on this, read it. Like you're saying, the intellectual side, it's like that's all well and good. And I feel like that has some jumpstart capability. If you don't even attempt that, you're never going to change the habit. But at the
Right,
same time, until you have the habit, it's very difficult. The cool thing is once you do have the habit,
right,
it's the work just drops completely off of it. So I want to go back to that success you were talking about because there's a lot of people that, there's a lot of people who would think 200, 300 grand a year is a lot, especially years ago. Uh,
mhm,
and, but there's still people who you might still think it's a lot, even with inflation and all that. But you said I didn't think I was successful till 50, but by the world's standards, you would have had to have been I don't know the exact stats, but I know over 72,000, 75,000 used to be the baseline or more, and you were substantially more even at your horrible spot,
Mm,
and it's 7% of the population. So you were at least in that top 5, 10%, let's say. Don't no one quote me on the stats on any of
right.
that. I just point is you were already by the world standards for most people successful. Why did you feel you weren't?
Oh, I did not feel like I wasn't successful. I just felt like that I wasn't living up to my potential. Uh,
Okay, that's what it was. So what was you what did how did you see yourself 50 and prior that changed?
well, I think what I saw at 50 was that I worked harder than all my friends, and I was making what I was making because I was so hard working. But I got to be 50, I'm like, hard work does not work for netting over $1 million a year. Works for making $200,000 a year, does not work for making over a million. And I really understood that once I started and was blessed to make multiple millions. I'm like, oh, I see how this works. This working smarter is way better than working harder. And
Leverage, huh?
yeah, yeah, right, right. And I think maybe the best thing to do is let me explain the secret and get that sort of foundationally
Yeah,
established.
please do. What is the secret?
And but I was sort of want to go, when we get a little deeper on this, ask me what is the difference? What was the difference when I was blessed to be making $5 million a year from when I was making $200,000 a year? But once we set the
Oh, that's
foundation,
intriguing.
yeah, because I've thought about this a lot,
Okay.
as you would probably think I would. But so here is let me explain the secret to you, and the best way is really to tell you the story of how I found it. So there I am. I'm at 50. I'm living in Dallas at the time, and I'm just not as successful as I think I should be, and I'm feeling the scarcity of time. But there was a little more going on with me besides feeling the scarcity of time. My mom was dying of pancreatic cancer.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry to hear that.
And so, like every day, Mario, after work, I'd go to the hospital, and she was in the hospital for like 6 or 8 weeks. So I'd go to the hospital after work, hold her hand, love on her, and then I would go in the cold, dark parking lot of the hospital and cry my eyes out, like for 45 minutes to an hour. I didn't want her to see me crying in front of her because she would know she was dying. I'm sure she knew that anyway. But so this goes on night after night. And I have never experienced that level of upheaval and emotional upheaval of crying my eyes out literally for 45 minutes to an hour. And what I what is obvious, I guess, is that I'm grieving losing my mom, but in retrospect, I now see there was way more going on than that. What was really going on was I was feeling like I was laying my mom down with my life because my mom and dad gave me all the advantages. They sent me to Jesuit high school in Dallas when they didn't really have the money, sent me to the University of Texas, didn't have to pay for a thing. So as my mom's is as she's leaving this world, I'm reflective about all the advantages she gave me. And all I had to show for it was an average life. And I hated the average life. Hated the average life because I knew I was capable of so much more. But again, like I said, what was the problem? Why weren't the results matching the potential? And what I see now, though, is that feeling of letting my mom down was like rocket fuel and causing me to go deeper into Think and Grow Rich than anybody else on the planet ever had to figure out the full secret.
Mm-hmm.
And so does that make sense?
It does.
And so around this time, um, I remember, I mean, I feel like I can remember it like it was yesterday. Um, this one particular night, and this is like 6 or 7 weeks into this, um, it was snowing in Dallas, and it doesn't snow in Dallas very often. So I go to the hospital, love on my mom, um, cry my eyes out, and start finally driving home. And I see the big snowflakes hitting my car windshield, and Mario, it just felt different. I didn't know what that meant. It just felt different. I drive home, I get home, I plop myself in my comfy chair, I pick up Think and Grow Rich. And again, this is probably the 20th time I'm reading it. And this particular night, I read that uh, your daily actions determine your success in each area of your life. The cumulative effect of your daily actions will determine your success in your career, in your health, in your marriage. Well, I never thought of success in such simple terms that it comes down to your daily actions, but I'm like, okay, I buy that. Then I read essentially that 95% of your daily actions are unconscious. And I'm like, huh, I'd never heard that before. And so now I'm ready to go to bed, and I wash my face and brush my teeth and put my little head on the pillow, and uh, I can't stop thinking about 95% of my daily actions being unconscious. And as I'm laying there, then it like hit me, and it's like a bolt of lightning. And I sit up and I'm like, well, wait a minute. If my daily actions turn my success and 95% of them are unconscious, then I don't control the very thing that is determining my success. And also, since
Kind of
they're
annoying, isn't it?
yeah, well, very enlightening. I
Sure.
guess what I was seeing is the exact problem, and you can't solve the problem until you actually see what the problem is. And I'm like, oh, and since they're unconscious, then my intelligence and intellect and logic is not driving my actions. And I'm like, whoa, this is groundbreaking. And I remember it was a surreal scene because I'm sitting up in bed and I'm looking at the snow falling, in my backyard and the glistening snowflakes. And I'm like, well, okay, we're on to something here. So what is controlling my daily actions? If they're unconscious, then it's my subconscious mind and my autopilot. And Mario, then I'm like, oh, this is really getting interesting now because I see that I haven't been underperforming because of lack of intelligence or lack of drive. I've been underperforming because of a false belief I've had for 50 years. And that false belief is that I control my daily actions. And I would dare say that everybody listening to this podcast has that very same false belief. They think they control their daily actions when in fact they don't. And it was at that moment that I'm like, oh, then I have to gain control over those unconscious daily actions and make more of them conscious. And that's when the full secret essentially came to me. And the full secret is that what you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And let me say that again. What you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And Mario, what that really means is you take your life and you create immense clarity about it. Exactly the person you want to be, exactly what you want to accomplish, and precisely how you're going to achieve your clearly defined goals. And you take that clarity and then you put it on a template that I created. And in fact, putting it on the template will help you create the clarity. And then you feed that to yourself every day and it takes approximately 21 days to see the effect. But essentially, three things happen from doing this. The first thing, and you experience this immediately, immense sense of control over your life. Well, of course you'd feel that way. You're feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life. Of course you'd feel control. Then the second thing you experience is confidence, which is a direct result of the control. And because the mind thrives on order, you're creating immense order in the mind, and it is very de-stressing. You feel an immense lack of stress from this order in the mind you're creating. And then the third thing that happens, and again, this happens after about 21 days, then you see the right actions start happening automatically without thinking. And once that happens, then you've rewired your autopilot so that the right actions happen automatically. So that's essentially how it works. Does that make sense?
It does. That's amazing. Let me ask you, why does the mind thrive on order?
Well, it just does. I don't know that I know why it does. It just does. Let me think if there's a good example of this.
I was just thinking about it the other day.
Well, I'll give you an example. Here's a good
Okay.
example. I've taught this to my class just recently. Why do you like music? Well, it's creating order in the mind.
Patterns.
And if you like, I play blues guitar, and every song is 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. It's called 4/4 time. Virtually every song is done that way. Well, it's pleasing to the mind because you're creating order. Does that make sense?
It does. It reminds me of when I was in marching band and, we were counting 1E and a 2E and a 3E
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the brain can grab onto that little segment one thing at a time. And even though you're doing, probably hundreds of notes through the whole song, it's focusing on just that one thing as you're going through it instead of, well, I want to do this and I've got to read that, but I got to send this email and like most
Right,
people, it's like, where do I start? And 15 minutes later, probably an hour and 12 minutes later go by and you're like, nothing got done. And then
right,
all you have to do is focus. And in 2 or 3 minutes, you're like, that one thing you've been thinking about for 3 hours is now accomplished. And then the less and less you get off your mind, the easier it is to do everything else. And I'm a culprit of this. I'm thinking of all the BS stuff I don't like doing, but it's like, take 7 minutes and do it. You'll be happy you did. I still don't like it, but I'd
right,
rather
right.
do this or write or, speak or, do the stuff I'm really good at, not like laundry. So
Well, let me give you an example of this. We've been talking about this from a 30,000-foot view. Let me give you a very practical example of it.
something we can use every day.
Right. Well, just an example of two things. First, that your life truly is in the moment and reactive, and that the practical example of how uh, uh, your daily actions really are unconscious, and also how the methodology works. And so, and again, an easy way is to show you through my romantic relationship. So every day, my precious wife Ginger and I get up, and off she goes, off I go to teach, and then at the end of the day, we reconvene to have dinner. And now keep in mind, first thing I do is I take my methodology and my life GPS template, and I feed it to myself. And uh, a couple of things I feed to myself relative to my marriage is that I assert to myself that I'm flexible, patient, and thoughtful. And I describe what that means relative to my relationship with Ginger. And I also affirm that she is different than I am. She does things slow and is people oriented. I do things fast and I'm task oriented. And essentially, she's a perfectionist. So we're there at dinner. She's preparing dinner. And in her world, everything's got to be perfect. The napkins have got to be perfect. And everything's just got to be perfect. Well, in my world, and I keep in mind, I'm just thinking this, I'm not saying this. I'm like, babe, let's eat. The boy is hungry. Let's just, put the food on the table. Let's go. But I don't say that. What happens is at the first hint of impatience on my part, an unconscious thought bubbles up to my conscious mind that says, John, here's an opportunity to be patient. And it's not going to do anybody any good to press her to move it forward. She's going to get it on the table when she gets it on the table. And there's no sense in irritating her. So just be patient. Well, that's what happens. Whereas if I wasn't reading my Life GPS template, I would have been reactionary and would have said something, as most people would. And so I think that's a perfect example of where, from what I'm reading every day, at that precise moment that I need it, then my conscious mind takes control using my intelligence and logic to tell myself, keep your mouth shut. Here's an opportunity to be patient. Now be patient and not let patience remain on autopilot, which may or may not happen. Probably in more cases, it wouldn't. And so, does that make sense?
It does. It's a great example. I appreciate you for sharing it. There's so many examples on a daily basis. You got me thinking of myself, and it's like, I remember praying for patience, and it's like, and then I remember hearing God doesn't give you patience. He gives you situations that will allow you to be more patient. I'm like, I don't want situations that will allow me to. I
Right,
just
right.
want the end result. Like, this is actually, you know what I mean? And,
But
but that's how you develop it, is by doing it the same way you would lift a weight, or in, a band, you got to practice the music or anything. You don't just go, I'm the best overnight. I didn't do anything.
well, and think about this. In my Life GPS template, I'm affirming probably 50 different things in the various aspects of my life. Some are my career, some are my health, some are my marriage, are just the person I want to be as a person. And when you're affirming this every day and you're giving yourself and your conscious mind intelligent control over those things, and it's happening in 50 different areas and it's happening every day, every month, every year, you're just playing the game of life at a higher level. I mean, it's just obvious that and you start to see it and feel it because you see how you were before being very reactionary, and then how you're like, whoa, I can do things that I couldn't do before. And the foundational science behind this, here is how the human mind works. The conscious mind sets the intentions and is influenced by logic. Now that's conscious mind. Subconscious mind controls your daily actions, or 95% of them, and is only influenced by repetition. And the classic example is, say you want to lose weight. Well, conscious mind sets the intention to lose weight based on the benefits, the health benefits. But the reason people fail to lose weight obviously is not from lack of intention, it's lack of controlling their actions, eating and exercising relative to losing weight. And so you can see when you're feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life to yourself every day, that's the repetition the subconscious mind needs to make the right actions happen automatically. Just like my example with my wife. It's that daily repetition that rewires the autopilot so that after 21 days, the right actions just happen automatically without thinking. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad we're sharing this with more people because, I mean, I'm around successful people all the time, whether there are authors, they're on the show, I'm speaking at the events with them, whatever the case is. And it's like, it's why I wanted to bring the perspective of, it's why I asked you that question, for the perspective of a lot of people wish they were making 200-300 grand a year. You were, and you just felt like something was missing. And that's the reality, is just because you're good at making the money or have the business or whatever, doesn't mean life's perfect. It just means it could mean you just got good at one thing and you know, just kept at it. I mean, that's true for anyone in sports, celebrity, music,
Right.
even in school. Was I the best in band? I thought it was a lot of fun, but no, there's people who could play better, but I just never quit. A lot of people did.
Right, right. Well, and here's something, maybe two quick things to share with the audience. So, a couple of years ago, I created an AI algorithm where if someone wants to apply my methodology, all they got to do is answer about 50 questions, press a button, and 10 seconds later, my template is customized to their unique life.
Oh, wow. How'd you create the AI algorithm?
Well, I saw that to take this really to the world, and because of the evolution of AI, um, I wasn't bright enough to create it, but I knew I could see the vision of it, and I got a team of actually a team of about 20 tech guys in Europe, in Belgium, that actually did it, and they're fabulous. They did a great job of it, and the other thing that I would say is, this is an actual way of doing life, and I for the credibility. So I feel so honored to teach this at the McCombs School of Business, which is the business school at the University of Texas. Most people probably don't know this. McCombs is rated by U.S. News and World Reports to be one of the top 5 business schools in the country, right up there with Harvard and Stanford. Well, it was hard to get my methodology approved there. It took me 2 years to do it. But I think the value to your
But you
audience,
stuck with it.
well, I did stick with it. I did stick with it because it was so easy to prove to them that it works. But I think to your audience, it's that credibility that has been vetted at the highest level. And the beautiful thing about this is this works on everyone. It can't not work. This is pure science. I've never had it not work on somebody. If they're human, it friggin' works. And so if you're up for it, I mentioned this to you before we got going. I want to create the same epiphany in you that was so transformative for me at 50. So you up for this?
I am. Let's create it.
Okay. Okay. So think about this. In your life, how many epiphanies have you had where you learned something from somebody else that really changed your life? Is it how many do you think it is? And you tell me how old you are again. You say 43?
One.
Or 41. Okay.
I I was going to say 5 or 6 times, but I'd like to consider myself ambitious, and I've been at this for a minute. It's probably been 10, 11, 12, like turning points. I mean,
Right.
I joke even when I'm getting interviewed, when people go, "When did you start your business?" And I go, "Which time?" Like all of
Yeah.
those generally were the precipice of an epiphany, like time to, you know, do something different.
Right. Right.
Five to
Well,
10, depending on how detailed we're getting.
and I guess you could also define it by how big's the epiphany. Like I've had four in my life. Obviously,
Yeah.
one of them was this, but here's the epiphany that I had. So again, 95% of my daily actions are in the moment and unconscious. And since they're unconscious, I see that my conscious mind, intelligence, intellect, and logic is not directing my daily actions. Yet again, those daily actions are the very thing that's determining my success in life. So, hey, I got to gain control over those unconscious daily actions and just make more of them conscious. And so that's the epiphany. And so my question to you is, do you believe that 95% of your daily actions are unconscious?
Yeah.
Okay? You're pretty sure of it, aren't you?
Unconscious?
Yeah, that you believe that 95% of your daily actions are unconscious, right?
Yeah.
You don't sound sure of
Yeah, I know.
that.
I was gonna say I feel like this is a trick question, but I know.
Well, let me ease that up for you a little bit. It's not really a quick question. Some people, I see that probably two-thirds of people go, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Then I have maybe a third of people go, yeah, I believe that. So I'm trying to figure out
Let me
which,
ask you this for clarifying. Unconscious is the same as subconscious, right?
yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then for sure.
So you believe it.
Yeah.
So what are you doing about it?
Yeah, it's a great question. Trying to surround myself with good people, read books, write books, get more good stuff out there, and try to minimize the negative.
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Um, that's not doing anything to make more of them conscious. I mean, think about this. If the subconscious mind is influenced by repetition, uh, reading more books isn't going to make more of them conscious and give you control over them,
There
right?
is some mind training stuff I do regularly, like during sleep.
Right,
Um,
right,
and as far as how I run everything, even filming the show, I have set up a lot of routines and patterns and stuff to just
right.
stuff like that. So I don't know if that bought me 12 more percent in the right direction, but I
No,
have a
I would
feeling you're
agree
still,
with that.
huh?
I would agree with that. That you're doing some things that are repetitive
I
that
have
are
no doubt you can help me do more. And I feel like, you
right,
know,
right. Well, and think about this, Mario. So for the two-thirds of the audience that this is new information, that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. Let me show you something that we'll do with ChatGPT if she'll cooperate with me. Let me try this.
Hey there, John. Great to have you here.
So are you up for a question, G?
Always, John. You know I'm ready for whatever question you want to throw my way. Let's hear it.
Okay. So I understand that 95% of a person's daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. Is that really true?
Yeah, that's a pretty well known concept in psychology. It's often said that a large chunk, sometimes people cite around 95%, of our daily actions and thoughts happen on autopilot, meaning they're driven by subconscious patterns and habits. So it's not an exact science down to the decimal, but it is a commonly referenced idea.
So I understand what's really happening is that you're unconsciously taking an action, and then a millisecond or two later, you're becoming conscious of it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's basically the idea there. A lot of neuroscience and psychology suggests that our brains often initiate actions or responses subconsciously first. Then, just a tiny fraction of a second later, we become consciously aware of what we're doing. So, in a way, consciousness is sometimes playing catch up to what our subconscious has already set in motion.
So the significance of that, appreciate that. The actions are determining your success in life, but they're happening unconsciously, and then you're becoming aware of them a nanosecond later. But the action themselves is being taken unconsciously. And what I see with a lot of people is they're going, well, wait a minute, I think all of my actions are conscious because I'm aware of everything I'm doing.
they don't want to let go.
Well, they're wrong because the reality is, sure, you're conscious of everything you're doing, but you're taking the action unconsciously, and a nanosecond later, you're becoming conscious of it, and you're thinking that you're conscious of it before you take it, when in fact, the opposite is true. You're just becoming aware of it almost instantaneously, but after the action happens. And so,
That's
uh,
interesting.
and so, here would be my question to you. So tell me about your morning routine. What do you do right now as your morning routine?
Wake up, drink water, brush teeth, shower, get ready, have some Greek yogurt, um, food, fuel, pray, have a buffer time to do stuff. I don't just jump into it. It's probably 45 minutes or an hour later minimum. Hour and a half to 2 hours I found is the sweet spot before it's like, let's get into it, because you're not fully awake, I don't believe, and the first stuff you're putting in your mind for the day is really going to affect how the rest of it goes. So I protect and shield that, so that way I can have the ultimate success in what I need to do and help people.
Well, think about this, Mario. You're doing something that most people are not doing. You're praying. In my view, that's a you're doing something to impact your mindset. Most people, 98% of people, are doing nothing to impact their mindset. But as an example, I have a friend of mine that's successful that I admire. And I asked him, I said, "So what's your morning routine?" He says, "Well, I get up, I journal, I pray, and I meditate." I'm like, it's pretty good, pretty good. But respectfully, I think it pales in comparison to feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life to yourself each day. Because when you're doing that, you're feeding exactly, you're going right to the source. You're saying to yourself and your subconscious mind, here's the person I want to be, here's exactly what I want to accomplish, and here's how I'm going to do it. When you're feeding that level of repetition to yourself every day, that makes the right actions happen automatically. And so, in the vast majority of cases, most people are not doing anything. And so that is such an opportunity for you. And maybe the more pertinent question for you, if you don't mind being candid about this, is on a scale of 1 to 10, like how would you rate your health today?
I would like to say 8 or 9.
Okay, okay. How would you rate your marriage?
I'm single.
Okay. How would you rate your romantic relationship? Are you in a relationship?
I am not.
Okay. So, how's it going in terms of finding a partner?
Okay.
Scale of 1 to 10.
7.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I'm not married, so I guess that would be a 9 or 10.
Well, keep in mind, I didn't get married until I was in my 50s. And if you would have rated, if we had asked me this question when I was your age, uh, I didn't have any trouble getting dates, but I wouldn't say that I'd rate that side of my life probably a 3 or 4. But and then how would you rate your business scale of 1 to 10 in terms of where you want to be? Scale of 1 to 10.
Again, 6, 7. Happy, but there's always more we can do.
So you see, if you keep on doing what you're doing, you're going to get the same results, right? So you got to change. You got to me, it's obvious that you have to take control of your mindset and take the lesson we learned from Think and Grow Rich, that your daily actions determine your success, and that 95% of them are unconscious, and you got to take control of that with that new knowledge.
And then get all of them to a 10.
Exactly, exactly. And so, and sort of as we wrap that part of it up in terms of the epiphany for the audience, that's the epiphany I want you to walk away with, that my daily actions determine my success. 95% of them are unconscious. That's what's determining my success. And by God, I got to gain control of them, because until I do, my intelligence and my intellect is not driving the very thing that's determining my success. That's the problem. And once people get that and see, oh, this guy, John Mitchell, is providing the 12-minute a day solution, and it's been vetted at the highest level, then they go, oh, maybe this is worth trying. Does that make sense?
It does. I appreciate you for sharing it. You got me thinking. I was like, how many more of these are we going to get? I notice a trend. They're not all at 10.
Right.
The
Exactly.
health one, I'll say good. Actually, today, a matter of fact, was some best weight in a long time. And I have been proactively doing stuff in that department. That's why I could say 8 or 9. But yeah,
Right.
6, 7, 8 for the rest. I mean,
But think about this. That I was telling my class this. Um, in fact, the first day of class, I asked them, "So, who wants the exceptional life?" All hands go up. Who wants the average life?
no one.
No hands go up. And I'm
Then why
like,
do most people go for it?
and because let's face it, people have an average life when you rate the areas of their life a 6, 7, or 8. To have the exceptional life, you got to be a 9 or a 10. And to me, this is the way to do it. And I know you'd find this interesting. About 5 or 6 years ago, I decided I'm going to take this to the top expert in the world on success, whoever he or she is. If I'm going to spend my life on this, I want to see what they say about it. Is there flaws in it? Is there something similar? So I decide Darren Hardy is that guy.
Oh
And
yeah,
so,
Success Magazine.
right. So totally sharp guy. I write a big check. I take Ginge with me. We go out to La Jolla, California. And oh, by the way, I met my wife using this methodology. And so we go out there and we spend 3 days in La Jolla with Darren Hardy. And the moment comes for me to hand him the template, and he's holding it in his hand, and I'm explaining how it works. And Mario, he goes, John, this is really good, but people aren't going to spend 12 minutes a day on this. And I'm like, whoa, how can that be? At 25x my income, Time Magazine did a cover story on the science behind it. And we're applying the central concept of the top book of the world on success to people's lives. I mean, what do you mean they're not going to spend 12 minutes a day on this? And he sort of kicks back in his chair and smiles and says, John, the dirty little secret of the success and human achievement field is that more success is merely a preference for the vast majority of people. He says that's 98% of people. And he says what you have is only for that 2% where more success is a necessity. And he says the problem you have, John, is you are looking at the world from your point of view. He says, I've been in the business a long time, and I'm telling you, it's only for the
Mm-hmm.
organization. And I'm like, well, and so I got people to take me up on that offer. And every time I would document it, it always worked. I never had to give anybody their money back. And I did that for about a year and a half. And then I realized, oh, this is a very unleveraged way to do this. And more things started happening
Is
at the
that what
University
is
of
that
Texas.
what led to you writing the book?
Yes, yes. And it also led to creating the algorithm. I saw that, okay, there's a more leveraged way to do this. My role as the mental coach with the athletes became greater, and I'm like, oh, this is a better way to do it. And so, um, that was very enlightening. That was a better way to go, and now it makes it available to everybody. So,
Yeah, it's one thing I love about doing books for people is once it's done, you can I joke around, I'm like swipe the Amex Merry Christmas. You can print 10 of them, 100, 1,000, 10,000,
right,
and get them in people's hands, and then they come to you. And once it's done, it's done. I have books I did over 10 years ago that are still helping people, and it's a great way to do it. But it sounds like you had the epiphany going, hey, it's not as much leverage as I have. I have this awesome secret here, which is true, but it's shocking to me because I've joked with Facebook posts, restaurants, all kinds of stuff. It's like you could have the best steak in the world, but if no one knows about it, how are they going to come in from a marketing standpoint? In Facebook, you could put you could take, literally, this is live streamed on there right now. You could take this, put it on there, and it might get a handful of, wow, this is good. But you put a picture of like a donut with a cheetah on it, and it's got 10, you know what I mean? It's like Darren is spot on. It's like, unless you're really going after it, it's like, oh, here's another nice thing. It's like, no, this is important stuff. Take it seriously. And I'm glad you're charging what you are or were. If people don't pay, they don't pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. And but it's an unleveraged thing to think you're going to charge people $20,000. I mean, not everybody can afford that. And I just want
2% can, if that's your target demographic.
That is exactly right, Mario. And that's what I finally got through my thick head is it's not for the 98%. If you're in the 98%, don't do my methodology. It's not for you. And once I started repelling the
I think it's for everyone, but if you're in the 98%, see it for what it's worth and don't not take advantage of it.
But they're not going to take advantage of it. That's the reality. I get what you're saying. I wish they would. And I fought that for years. And finally, like through the help of Darren Hardy, I'm like, okay, it's just not for them. That's okay. If they're happy with their life, more power to them. But I'm not going to beat my head against the wall to get people to recognize the brilliance of this. And the real brilliance is not me. It's really Napoleon Hill. All I did was created the practical application to that amazing book. He's the genius, not me.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did. I mean, 12 minutes a day. I mean, I don't know the stat, but I would bet most people spend 30 to 60 to 90 plus a day just doom scrolling. 6 minutes here, 4 minutes here. Oh, I don't. My favorite, one of the things I would walk our authors through for years, there's this app called Rescue Time. And it's like, put it on your phone, put it on your browser, this and that. And, we work with successful people. Oh, no, I don't do that. I don't do that. I go, okay, just set it and forget it. Put it on, wait a week, and then check the report. And
right.
Like clockwork, like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I had 11 hours on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's not, you're sitting there all day long. It's just, those little minutes here, they add up.
Right. Well, I think my life experience has taught me that unless you have something that gives you an edge, you're getting the average life. And this 12-minute a day technique for me and my clients is that edge. And you and I talked about this early in the podcast. So what was the difference when I was blessed to be making $5 million a year versus 200,000 in my 30s and 40s?
Yeah, what was the difference from when you 25 extra income?
Well, here was the difference. So, and this is probably the CPA in me coming in. I'm innately curious. And so when I was blessed to be making that type of money and creating financial security, I'm very observant of what's going on now versus then. And I saw that, first of all, I was performing 3 high performance skills that I was never doing in my 30s and 40s. And the first one was I was highly organized. I mean, I was a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. I planned my day the night before, I time blocked my day, and I identify my top 3 priorities. And I would say this to anybody. If you're not a 9 or 10 on organization, you're not going to be very successful. That's the foundation to being successful. And I have a very simple system that I teach people through my book, and I give them the forms and all that. And so, but that's the first high performance skill. Well, I wasn't to that level of organization in my 30s and 40s. Then the second one is I developed this technique of setting aside time to deep think 2 times a week,
Hmm.
just to step back from the world and just observe what's going on, read reality, and see what's working, what's not working. And I have a sort of a three-step process for that, but it takes 30 minutes 2 times a week. Well, I wasn't doing that in my 30s and 40s. And then the third component is I became a conduit of learning that was strategic relative to what I wanted to accomplish. And I created a very simple system. And again, I'll teach this in my book. But like I saw as an entrepreneur, the most important part of the business is marketing. I had to make the phone ring. And so that was strategic relative to what I wanted to accomplish. And so using, essentially podcasts, I can feed, key things about marketing into my head. Sometimes it might be empowering employees or something like that, of running a company, but most of the time it was marketing. And so what a difference that was, where, the reality is, and this is stunning, the average person today that has graduated from college doesn't read 3 books the rest of their life. So the American public is not growing. They may think they're growing. You may ask them if they're growing, and they'll go, well, yeah, I listen to Joe Rogan. Well, that's entertainment. That's not growing strategically relative to what you want to accomplish. And so that consistent growth every single week using a system, though combined with the other two, were 3 high performance skills I was doing in my 50s that I wasn't doing in my 30s and 40s. And then the other component of this is I would take my business and I would break it down into 6 components. Here's my business plan. Here's my succinct strategy for success. Here's the 2 or 3 things that move the needle. Here's where I want my business to be 3 years from now. Here's the milestones, 4 or 5 milestones to get there. And then
So you
here's,
were mapping out every last thing you wanted.
well, I was from a big picture standpoint, I was articulating each of these things. My business plan. What is my succinct business plan? Not in, this is the issue, Mario. Most people have a business plan that they look at once a year and stick it back on the shelf. Well, I'm feeding my business plan to myself every day. And I'm also feeding myself my strategy for success. The real, why am I going to be more successful than other people in this business? Then I'd feed, the 3 things that move the needle. Then I'd also see, okay, where do I want my business to be in 3 years? What do I need to be
Yeah,
netting?
plan it out.
Well, not totally plan it out as much as what
Or
do I
map
want
it out, I guess I should say.
what do I want to be netting and how many employees is that going to take? And then I'm going to define, okay, from where I am now, what are the 4 or 5 milestones that I need to hit to get there? And that sort of gives you the map of where you're going. And then the final one is what is the linchpin issue that you need to resolve to take your business to the next level? And I saw that, of course, I was doing none of that in my 30s and 40s, but it was that combination of those 3 high performance skills and my ability to do them from this enhanced control of myself, coupled with feeding those 6 things to myself every day. I just continually had a deeper and deeper understanding of my life and my business. And that's why, as I learned new things and had deeper insights, I'd change my life GPS template. I'm changing it today once a week. There's something that I see. But it's that was the combination that made the difference and caused my income to go up by 25 times the 200 grand I was making in the prior 20 years.
That's phenomenal, and I sincerely appreciate you for going deep with us and sharing the insights of what you did. Because so many people just say, "Hey, if you want to go from here to here, try this or do this or whatever," but there's no like granular map or I'm glad you have these tools and resources available for people. I have one more question before we thank our sponsor,
Okay.
and it's a little fun one. You want yellow or black? We got the wheel of whatever here.
Oh my goodness. It's funny you had those two colors. I'll take yellow.
Okay, let's see if you get yellow. So yellows are easy question, blacks are hard ones, and they're controversial.
Oh, let me take black then.
Oh, you want that one, huh?
It's funny. I just bought a new car and it's
What'd you get?
yellow and black. Do what?
What'd you get?
I almost hate to admit this, but I bought a Lamborghini.
Oh, nice. Which one?
The Huracan.
Very cool.
It,
And you
and
said it's black?
it's black with yellow accents on the wheels.
Oh, that's sweet.
Right, right.
Well, I
It's
guess
funny.
I'm not going to ask you what your dream car is.
Well, it's funny. I'm not so because in full transparency, I'm not so sure I want to be that guy that is perceived as Mr. Flash. I'm about inner peace and playing the game of life at my full potential. And I think on one hand, I think having a Lamborghini implies the wrong image, but you know what? I like them, and I want to enjoy life. They're a work of art, so I don't really worry what people's perception is. But it's funny. I just got it a week ago, so
I think you just gave me the answer. I appreciate seriously that well, there's a yellow and black motif going on with all of our branding and everything, but your car is the same as mine. I've always wanted to get a yellow and black one, and I 100% agree. I'm more about helping people, this, that, the other thing, but at the same time, someone's got to buy these things. Why
yeah,
not? Why not enjoy it? And I will say this too. And thank you for coming up with the question. Usually I have to prompt, what's your dream car? Where would you like to travel if you weren't doing just some off the wall thing? I used to ask conspiracy theory questions and stuff, just to get people's insight. But this is a great timing and topic for the wheel of whatever, because if someone takes one look at you and goes, oh, whatever, that's saying a whole heck of a lot more about them, because whether you believe it's possible or not, I would personally go, wow, beautiful car. Congrats. What'd you do to get it? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Instead of just assuming something.
right. No, I get that. I get that. Yeah, I get that. But one of the things I affirm to myself every day is that, and this is reflective of the methodology. This is for people that want to play the game of life at their full potential. That's the 2%. 98% of people don't care about playing the game of life at their full potential, but 2% do. And one of the things I affirm is I want to have maximum impact and I want to have maximum enjoyment. Well, I kept on reading that every day. I'm like, John, buy the damn Lamborghini if that's what you really want.
Let
So,
me ask you this before we thank our sponsor and come back to the imperfect action round. Was this your first one, or is this just a new one?
no, it's my first one.
Good for you. Good for you. You'll have to send me some pictures of it. I got to see this.
I will be glad to.
But good for you, sincerely. We're going to thank our sponsor and come back for the imperfect action round.
Absolutely, John. That was quite a journey we just went on, and I love how your time.
And we are back with the imperfect action round. John, are you ready to take imperfect action?
I am ready.
All right, I got 3 questions for you, 60-second or less answers. The first one, what's the fastest path to the cache?
Say that again.
What's the fastest path to the cache?
Let me think about that. Figure out what your unique talent is and play into that talent.
Very good. Number 2, what's the biggest problems you see your prospects making and the fastest way for them to fix it?
They're doing nothing to impact their mindset.
Ooh.
And they miss the concept that their daily actions determine their success, and 95% of them are unconscious.
Okay.
So
Number 3, what's the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
always put the customer first and exceed the value that they get from you versus what they would get from the competition.
Okay. Very good. What books, as a publisher, I got to ask you, what books would you recommend to Expert Authority World?
Big fan of obviously Think and Grow Rich. That's sort of a no-brainer. But another one I would recommend is Psycho-Cybernetics. Have you ever heard of the Psycho-Cybernetics?
Very familiar.
Classic. I read it at 19 years old, and it was transformative. And the other one that I have read that is well, How to Win Friends and Influence People is a absolute must read. But the latest one that was transformative for me was a book called Letting Go by Hawkins.
Yeah.
Great book. So those are my favorites.
All right. How about Missing Secret? I'm going to tell everyone they should get a copy of yours.
Absolutely. That's a given. But I already know it because that's my life. But for other people, I'd say read The Missing Secret before you read Think and Grow Rich, because once you know what the secret is and you read Think and Grow Rich, it jumps out all over the place.
Okay.
But if you don't know what the secret is, you're always looking for it and you're like, where is it?
Fair enough. Where would you like people to learn more?
So go to themissingsecret.org, themissingsecret.org. And Mario, I have a 9-minute video that I did for your audience that explains the missing secret and Think and Grow Rich and gives the science. And again, it's free. So watch the video, and if you really like it, then buy the book, and I'll give you access to the algorithm, and you can apply it to your life.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights. I've appreciated it, and I know Expert Authority World did too.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right.